So that is one rare and beautiful Mopar. That is a 1975 Plymouth Roadrunner, and it's not only one of the rarest, rare now, but even rare when it was new, because Chrysler only built about 7,200 of these things. But it's also one of the most least understood of the Roadrunners, and it's the last of the true Roadrunners, because the VIN on this car starts with RM. So if you're not familiar with the VIN designations, R at the beginning of a VIN number, a Mopar VIN number, designates mid-size Plymouth, and then the M is the price class. So from the beginning in 1968, the Roadrunner always had the M, the middle price class car. The Belvedere was the L, low price. But anyway, you get the general idea. This is the last of them. In 1976, they continued the Roadrunner package, but it was really just stripes and decals on the Volare with no VIN designation. So that is truly the last of the real Roadrunners. So here's one of the confusing aspects of these cars, and that's based on a Fury. And you say, well, the Fury is a C-body. How could it be an RM, a mid-size Plymouth, if it's a C-body? Well, in 1975, they did away with the satellite nameplate and downsized the Fury. The C-body Fury became the Grand Fury, and the regular Fury became a B-body. The equivalent of that would be the Chrysler Cordoba and the Dodge Charger. So Plymouth needed an intermediate car like that, and that's where the Fury came from, where the downsized Fury came from. But it's a B-body, and underneath the skin, it's really the same. I mean, you look at it, you say, "Oh, there's no B-body there," but no, it actually is. Everything underneath is the same as the earlier 73, 72. Minor differences, but just production differences. The base engine on these cars was a 318 two-barrel. So when they introduced the Roadrunner in 68, the base engine was a 383. The Roadrunner is just a pure performance car in 1968. Initially, they weren't even available as hardtops. They were all pillared coupes. Later on, they added the hardtop, and as the nameplate progressed through the years, it became softer and softer and softer until you get to this thing, which is really just as much of a luxury car as it's like a sporting luxury car. It's not really a muscle car, but it's a Roadrunner. So 68 through 71, 72 really, the Roadrunner was based on a performance car. The bottom line was performance. 73, they really started softening up. The base engine was a 318 two-barrel with dual exhaust and a 321 gear. Those package cars, the 73, 74, 318 Roadrunners, were the only 318 two-barrel dual exhaust cars Chrysler built. Trivia, right? 75, it's a 318 two-barrel, but these only came with single exhaust. Now, not this car. This car is not a 318 two-barrel. This car's got a lot of special features on it that make it rare among rare, and probably the most desirable of these things that you're going to come across. But we'll get to that in a couple of minutes when I bring the owner over, and he'll tell you the specifics of this car. So this particular specimen is really spectacular, and it's probably one of the highest option cars you're going to find in this. There weren't many survivors, really. I mean, it's a rare car. Rare when it was new, and even much rarer today. Sunroof. And just look at this thing. It's beautiful. And this is the owner. Phil, say hi to YouTube.
Hey, how's it going today?
All right, so tell us about your beautiful automobile here.
Well, like I said, it's a 75 Plymouth Roadrunner. It's a factory E58 360 engine with automatic in the floor, bucket seats and console. It has the optional Sundance interior. It has the optional urethane wheels. It has the light package. It has the remote mirror left and right, AM, FM, 8-track. It's got everything in the world in this car but air conditioning. Wished it had air conditioning being black. But very nice original car, and it's basically a two-owner car. The original owners kept it until just last year.
So let's talk about some of the quirks of these things. So I said that the 318 two-barrel with the single exhaust was the base engine here, and we'll get to the specifics of this one in a minute. But in the brochure, in the literature, it says that it would have a base engine, the 318 would have a manual floor shift transmission, which would be the A230. In reality, though, none of those cars are ever produced. If you ordered a 75 Roadrunner with the base engine and the base manual transmission, it came 3 on the tree. which is like, you just can't imagine, especially a luxury type of car like this with the Roadrunner trim and then 300 column. But they were all, most of them, the vast majority of them were ordered as automatics. And when you ordered an automatic, it came either on the column or, in the case like with this car, a console mounted shifter. So let's pop the hood on this thing and there you go. So now this is the 364 barrel. Now the base engine, again, 318 2 barrel. The 362 barrel was another optional engine. The 402 barrel was an optional engine, and towards the end of production they brought out the 404 barrel. But the hottest version of this car would be this one right here, which is the E58 Police Pursuit 360. And this one's optioned really oddly.
Very odd, completely. Like I say, it's got, you know, of course, being a Roadrunner, it's got heavy duty suspension, but it also has a 9 1/4 rear end in it, which is kind of unusual.
Yeah.
And like I say, front and rear sway bars, all the stuff like that, the car handles and drives like a dream.
Well, under here, this is no air. It has everything else. You got power brakes, you got cruise control, power steering, 100 amp alternator, no AC, factory AC delete car. And these air cleaners are a bit of a fooler. It looks like a single snorkel air cleaner like you'd find on a 2 barrel, but these have a trap door underneath, a vacuum operated trap door. So when you give it gas and the vacuum falls off, the door opens up and allows air in to come in through the bottom of the air cleaner. And of course it's got the beep beep horn, the voice of the Roadrunner. So unusual thing with these horns is that Chrysler was really trying to get that meep meep sound from the cartoon, and these horns have aluminum windings instead of copper ones. The copper windings made a sound that was too deep, sounded too much like a regular car horn, so they wound these things with aluminum, and it has that tinny sort of meep meep sound. Does the horn work on this car?
Yes.
Can you hit it?
Sure.
There you go. But this thing is just beautiful. Just exactly the way Chrysler sent it. Now this car also has dual exhaust. 75 was the first year for catalytic converters, and the base cars had catalytic converters. This one over here with the police motor comes with a non-cat true dual exhaust. And in fact, here you got the build sheet here. It's right there. Delete cat converter. So another unusual thing here, if we go around to the back of the car, this is just beautiful. You've got these exhaust tips. And you say, well, these things don't belong on this car, but actually they do. Phil, what's the story with these things?
Okay, if you've got like a 318, 362 barrel, whatever, they would have just the one exhaust pipe on one side, and they had that one tip. But if you did get the dual exhaust, which very few of them did, they would have both of them. And these are actually the same exhaust tips on a 70 to 74 Challenger.
Nice.
So they were. I was lucky to be able to get a hold of those.
So one of these, the 75 Roadrunner, one of the trademark things on these cars are this sticker in the back, the tunnel sticker. But that's not even standard, that's optional.
That's optional. It would have just one little stripe that would go around just like this. This was an option.
Yeah, definitely the most distinctive visual feature on these cars. And of course, the traditional bird holding his crash helmet. And when you come around over here to the door, it uses the 1970 Dust Trail bird, but just the front part of it. These are the optional wheels. So standard wheels on these cars were the Magno 500 style, or the road wheels as Chrysler called them. And these are a urethane covered.
Yeah, urethane covered wheel.
Sure. Yeah, like a turbine wheel. Just absolutely beautiful. So I say it's like a luxury car, but without the air conditioning, which is kind of odd. Very rare sunroof.
Now, factory tack car as well.
Does the sunroof leak?
I've never tried it. I don't ever get it out in the rain. Of course, if I wash it, I'm very careful with that. But I'd say it probably would if you give it a chance.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the Sundance interior, where there was a whole separate model called the Satellite, the Sundance, in 1974, and it had this interior, so they carried it over to the Roadrunner the next year. Just beautiful, just beautiful. Originally the Roadrunner, well, let me get rid of this buzzer here. So the first year Roadrunners had the basic taxi cab style or Belvedere sweep speedometer. 1970 they started going to the rounder gauges and all of that. This one has a very nice gauge cluster with a factory tack, which is a rare item. Yeah. Roadrunner call out over the glove compartment door. And fixed rear windows, which makes it a coupe, which is really part of the Roadrunner tradition. 1968, the initial run of Roadrunners were bench seat only, pop out rear window only. It was only later on. They softened them. Every year they softened them and softened them and softened them until you get to, like I said, it's really a luxury car. So this one here has a 9 1/4 rear, which is very unusual. Get a look under here. That's not something you see very often. So the standard rear on these cars, 73 was a 74. 74 was the last year for an 8 3/4. The base rear end was an 8 1/4, and then the optional 9 1/4. Standard gearing on the Roadrunner was always a little bit better than the Satellites or the equivalent cars, which would come like 270 gears. The Roadrunner package automatically included a 321 gear. It gave the car a little bit of snappiness compared to, the base models. And contrary to popular belief, the Roadrunner never came standard with a short grip rear. The short grip was always optional. From 1968 on up, if you wanted a short grip, you actually had to order it. So now, does this car have a short grip, or is it?
I think it does. I'm not sure.
Okay. So, but it's just absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Can you fire it up for us? So did we forget anything?
You want to?
Did we forget anything?
I don't know.
I think we covered pretty much all of this car's high spots. So like I said, very, very rare cars, and rare when they were new. 7,200 or so. So Roadrunner production 68, 69, 70 were all in the 45 to like 90,000 range. Then 72, they dropped off to 7,000 units. 73, 74, they built several more, probably because at that point they went to the 318. They made that, because insurance was a big deal back then, insuring a muscle car. So the 318 as a standard engine made it more approachable for the average person. So 73, 74, sales went crazy and the Roadrunner numbers came back up again. 75, about the same number as they built in 1972, around 7,200. And really, there can't be more than, let's say, several hundred of these cars surviving today, because they just didn't get any respect back then. But now you look at this, there's a lot of cars from that era, especially like your Malaysia or Mopars. Like I have a 73 Roadrunner, and I remember back way back when, you wouldn't even give that thing a second glance, right? It's completely worthless. But now with the hindsight, you know, 40 something years down the road, 50 years down the road, you look at these cars, Malays era Mopars or muscle cars, and it's like, that is a sweet, sweet ride. So anyway, I figured you guys would get a look at this thing. Phil, thank you for sharing your car with us.
Sure.
And this is a keeper, right?
This is the keeper. I like it.
I'm actually jealous. It's a really nice car. I'll see you tomorrow.